Welcome back to Wellness in Minutes, where we give you bite-sized health information that's easy to digest. Be sure to check out the show notes for details on the full episode and more from the Food Matters podcast.
Cleanup work that you have to do later, because any itis is inflammation. So why is Ozempic causing inflammation of the GI tract, right? It's manipulating it instead of healing it. Why is it causing GERD, right? If you have GERD and it goes unchecked, could it eventually turn into esophageal cancer? Or could it allow H. pylori to overgrow, giving you an ulcer or stomach cancer? Like, these are just the things that we don't know when we go towards the quick fixes. So I'm not a fan of Ozempic, if you can tell. I just think there are a myriad of other ways up the mountain that are just so much more rewarding, that where you can get not just weight loss, but peace and access to who you really are, and improve not only your health, but your relationships and what you do in the world and how you self-actualize. Because when you have a grounded nervous system, that's when you're out of survival and you're really living.
Let's jam more about this nervous system, because it is such an important part of our everyday life. And you're right. So many people get told, oh, okay, you have gut issues. Now you have to eat healthy for your gut. And then, you know, we stress about, oh gosh, we have a gut issue. Now, what do we do about our gut? And then we try to eat as healthy as we can, but we forget to address all of the nervous system issues, right? We forget to sleep good, or we forget to stress less. And sometimes that is not always the case. It's not always that easy to just sleep better. I hate it when people say, well, just get enough sleep. It's like, well, good luck with that. If you have, a lot of things going on in your life, including kids and running a business, and you're a single mom, good luck with that, right? So it's sometimes we need to allow, especially women, to, first of all, okay, I know you're going through a lot of things. Acknowledge the fact that we don't have it easy and we have a lot on our plate. But then let's talk about some fun and simple tips that we can incorporate in our daily routine that can actually take the pressure off our body and allow our bodies and our nervous system to recalibrate.
Yeah, allow it to be easier, right? It's without so much of a struggle. And so I would like to go through maybe 6 pillars. This is, so we have a program, we help people heal their adrenals and their thyroid. And because it's like, if you look at the nervous system as the foundation of our house, a lot of people, they'll come to me, they'll be like, oh, I know I have gut issues. It's like, yeah, but if you don't heal the nervous system issue, it's going to tag in the enteric nervous system of the gut, and that's where you'll feel it. But if you just go to the gut, you're going to keep recreating it and keep having to heal it. So you're right. Some things we can't change, right? Businesses, young children, single parenthood, that's a lot. But what we can change is what we do. And so I would say for anyone listening, like what you do first thing in the morning, and I know you've talked about this so much, and I've talked about this when I've done interviews with James, is so important. Catching sunlight in your eyes when you first wake up, and making sure you eat something with protein, carb, and fat within 1 hour of waking. Like, you're setting up your hormone and your metabolic profile with what you do first thing in the morning. Yeah. So we have people, I mean, if you're really struggling, like we have people, see, here's the problem though, and I'm sure you've seen this in your clients, Laurentine, where it's like, if you are really in an imbalanced nervous system state, or your thyroid or your adrenals, and a lot of people who can't lose weight, they're not hungry at all in the morning. They have an aversion to food. That's a negative liver response to the food. The liver is not producing the right amount of cholesterol, which is not producing the right amount of hormones. And so it's like, okay, now we have to force ourselves to eat. But it's essential. So this is how we don't need to use Ozempic. We need to see, okay, look what's happened overnight. And the vast majority of us, we store glycogen. We store glycogen in our muscles and in our liver. But when we're stressed and when we're busy, the body's going to secrete those reserves. So that's why you think, oh, I'll skip a meal, right? And it's secreting those reserves. But most of us, we don't have any tools. We don't have any left. It's like your generator's broken. Now the power goes out and the body's constantly secreting cortisol.
Right.
That may work for a little while, right? And I know there's probably a lot of people listening where you're feeling great, or you move into intermittent fasting, or just a black cup of coffee in the morning. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. And then your hair falls out, and then you are so anxious. And of course you can't sleep at night in this spare tire down the middle. So we have to reverse that.
And people are just saying, just get better sleep. That's all you need to do. You're like,
it starts in the morning. Your sleep starts with what you do first thing. Yes. I know. And I've had my fair share of sleep issues. So nobody likes to hear that. Like, get better sleep. It's like, how? Yeah. So really making sure you kind of create like a schism throughout the day of your blood sugar. That's right. If you're not going to eat, and caffeine has to be delayed until 90 minutes after waking up. We don't want to add fuel to the cortisol fire. We want our body to produce cortisol naturally. And so many of us are in varying phases of adrenal dysregulation, 1, 2, or 3, right? If you're in phase 1 or 2, then you may feel anxious and wake up with your heart pounding. If you're in 3, like, it's really hard to get up and like there's no appetite. So we're just trying to create stability and safety and balance. So an example, if you're not hungry in the morning, we've got an adrenal healing creamsicle, where we use 8 ounces of orange juice. We use 2 scoops of collagen, which is 18 grams of protein, an eighth of a teaspoon of Himalayan pink salt. And then I would use MCT powder, or a few tablespoons of coconut cream for your fat, or you can use a good quality raw cream. Now you have the perfect amount of protein, carb, and fat, and then the minerals and the salt, right, to shut off the stress response. So you're not going to overproduce cortisol. And that's what we want to do consistently. Say, hey, you're safe. You're safe. You don't have to overproduce cortisol. Now you're refilling the glycogen in the muscles and the liver. And then you're slowing that release with the healthy fat that you're using. If you have zero appetite in the morning, that's a good place for you to start. And then make sure a few hours later, you're going to eat something more of substance. So in the adrenal recode, we've got our 6 pillars. So we want synergistic foods for the nervous system, the brain, the adrenals, and the thyroid, because we want everything to have vitamins and minerals and trace minerals, and if we're going to eat, let's eat food as medicine, not processed foods, right? And that's going to be really important, the combination of nutrients. But food frequency is very important when you have lost your glycogen stores. And so people with broken energy systems, right, like the low adrenal and low thyroid function, these are the ones with the weight gain issues. They can't store energy in adequate form. So now they can't regulate their blood sugar throughout the day. So rather than taking a medication for that, like, you can just start to restore harmony with food frequency. So start to see, like, maybe you treat yourself like a baby. When you have the newborn, he or she, they can't sleep. They need enough food in their belly to regulate their nervous system. When their nervous system goes on the fritz, they cry and you feed them. And so this is where you really have to drop deeper into yourself. The number one thing to do to have a good quality of life, to have a balanced weight, to sleep well. And the only thing that centenarians, people who live to 100, have in common are balanced blood sugar levels. And the way to get there is food frequency. So first thing in the morning, and then we'll probably go between 2.5 to 3 hours later, and then another 3 hours, another 3 hours, another 3 hours, with also something before bed, which most people think is such a taboo, but we need to regulate our blood sugar while we're sleeping. And a lot of us in this state, when we're not sleeping, or we're stressed, or life is too busy, we're waking up between 1 and 4 a.m. with those ruminating thoughts, right? With our heart pounding. Or maybe we'll make it to 4 or 5, but we wake up with like a sense of doom. That is cortisol. And then the mind starts to make meaning of it. Okay, what's wrong with my life and this and that, which is just, we don't need to be doing that. So we've got like a golden milk before bed that has, because we're going to buffer inflammation at night, especially if you have gut bugs. They're active at night. And when gut bugs are active at night, they're driving up inflammation, and the body's like, oh, I can help. I'll secrete cortisol, right? And you're like, that's not helpful for my sleep. So we'll have something like a golden milk with turmeric and ginger in it. I like to use one with ashwagandha and I use some fat, and I again use collagen. The fat I like to use is ghee. It's very healing for the nervous system and the myelin sheath, the protective
Beautiful.
coating around the nerves. So having a ritual golden milk at night, it's like, okay, then people start to stay asleep. Or
Yes.
I know we've talked about this before in the master classes. I call it the salty banana snack before bed. You can have a banana rolled in Himalayan pink salt and about 10 cashews. And so that will help you have vitamin B6, convert to progesterone, which helps you sleep. It will also, bananas have tryptophan, help you convert to serotonin, helpful for hot flashes and a sense of peace. But also, again, you're having some protein, you're having some carbs and fat and minerals, and that will usually help people to stay asleep. So they don't have to be huge meals, and you don't have to be worried about gaining weight. You're just tuning in, like, do I have what I need for myself? And if you feel that tired but wired, or you tune in and you feel that buzzing, the answer is probably no.
Right. Can I ask some more questions, or have you finished with all your pillars that you've covered?
Now, I mean, I can keep going on the pillars, but I would love for you to interject and ask questions. Yeah.
So I guess my question is around just making it really practical for people, and especially where we're talking about nervous system, especially when we wake up. How do we know that, we're not going into fight and flight mode? Because sometimes, even I personally, I have like jitters, or I get like feeling of like anxiousness in the
Yeah.
morning. How do we combat that? Or is it something
Yeah.
we do
Yeah.
before we go to
Yeah.
bed?
And I also, get that too. And it can be like a byproduct of just a genetically inherited nervous system. Like there's, do you know HSPs, highly sensitive people? It happens, right? And so if you're an HSP, like where I am, so if I know like life's going to bring up the stress, then I will take phosphatidylserine at night before bed, like a higher dose, 150 milligrams, which is going to bind to high cortisol and pull it down along with the snack. But it's like, yeah, when you wake up with the jitters, what I do is I have an app, and I do just 10 to 12 minutes of somatic yoga to start to open up the flow and release some energy within the body. And then I'll go have an adrenal healing creamsicle, and then just get like 5 minutes even outside. And that will usually help to take away those jitters, or some chamomile tea, and like
Beautiful.
restore that sense of safe place. Yeah.
And just a little bit more on your recipe that you said you use for evenings. I'd love you to repeat that, because I'm sure people would love to hear more about that.
Yes, so I would make golden milk. Like you can buy it, or you can make it with turmeric and ginger, a little ashwagandha in there, and I would do about 2 cups of your favorite. If you drink raw milk, awesome, right? Because actually raw milk, if you can tolerate, is the perfect food for this situation, because it has the 50% protein, 25% carbs, and 25% fat, which is like the perfect ratio to shut off the nervous system. Like, okay, you're safe. Feed the thyroid without the thyroid having to work for it at all. And then, really supporting the nervous system. So if you can handle that, plus, milk has as a calming peptide. I don't know if your mom used to give you warm milk at night when you couldn't sleep, but if you can handle it, if not, then oat milk. I mean, macadamia milk would probably be my favorite, because that's got the right amount of fat profile, the most saturated fat, which is what we're going for. That's also another pillar. We're using the targeted use of saturated fats to protect the nervous system, to create stability, and not so much the unsaturated fats, which can create instability. So you'll do, I would say, about 1.5 cups of your nut milk, and then 1/8 of a teaspoon of turmeric, a pinch of ginger in there, ginger powder, maybe a little bit less than 1/8 of a teaspoon. If you have ashwagandha powder, you can add it. Actually, Gaia Herbs makes this already done for you, which is the one that I use. Add a sprinkle of salt, add 2 scoops of collagen, which will be 18 grams, and add a teaspoon of ghee. And then just use one of those stir sticks, blend it all together, create a kind of a sacred moment. I'd say maybe have that an hour before bed so that hopefully you don't wake up to use the
Okay.
restroom.
And when did you add the banana and cashew nuts? Is that like a smoothie on itself? It's by itself, or is that?
Oh, no, that's an either or. That's an
the
either or.
Okay, I
So
love
you
that.
can do you can do golden milk at night, see how that works for you. Or you can just peel a banana, roll it in Himalayan pink salt, have 10 raw cashews with it. Easy. That's two options at night before bed to make sure you sleep better, make sure you don't pop up with high cortisol, and hopefully you don't get the jitters in the morning.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love having like practical recipes, that help us to stabilize our blood sugar levels and help us to sleep better. So yes, thank you everyone for listening. I really enjoyed that talk. I hope you did too. And there will be more of these on the Food Matters podcast. So head to foodmatters.com and see you again.